What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Thursday night Airbrush Down Dirty Tricks. Let's see who is in the house. Do a quick sound check. We got good sound. I think we had good audio, except for that intro 10-second. I think blasted everyone. I got to adjust that. Sorry about that. It is 8 p.m. a Thursday night, May 1st. It is already May. Man. Doug Lamb, what's happening? Thanks for coming back. Mike Stanton, Robert Mann, Joe, what's going on, Joe? God, he doesn't know. The fulcrum in me. Yep. Dan, Brian, Mike, Todd, what's going on? Yeah, I am feeling better. Darren Plank, what's going on, everyone? Got a few. Gary, she's in the house. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for popping in. Doing a fun little project, which I gotta capture some footage because I want to do some shorts and I want to cut this down. I gotta re-edit. I've never edited my pack of skulls videos, so I gotta do those, and I want to do a fire one. I want to do a few other ones and just a few things like that. Dr. Allen says, greetings from Mesa, Arizona. What's going on? Spirit Air Customs. We got a bunch in tonight. So we are doing real fire, true fire color. I don't often do it. I do a couple once in a while, and I don't often do it because it is a lot of steps to go over in a short time. So I got to keep it somewhat simple. So if I do fire, with a skull, that's pretty much a video. If I start doing a bunch of other things and then fire, the videos become really, really long and hard to follow. So I want to keep this simple. I want to do a refresher of a simple skull. And I know everyone does, why skulls? So many. To quote the great Mike Lavallee, who also talked about fire, who created Tru-Fire, the look of it, the way we like it, the way it popped. To quote him when someone says, don't you ever get tired of painting skulls in fire? And he would simply ask, basically, to paraphrase, you ever get tired of picking up $100 bills and putting them in your pocket? Because that's literally what you do when you can paint skulls well. It's a staple. It's like old school flames and hot rods and motorcycles. They're timeless. They're going to be around for a long time. Get good at them. You don't have to paint them all the time, but get good at them. They are a money maker. It's like running a car shop and a motorcycle shop. You got to do oil changes. Okay? They make money. But that being said, they do teach you a lot. Once you can master a skull, I didn't get good at portraits until I got better at skulls because I started to understand the structure. And skulls were a nice, simple way to understand light and dark shading, how to form dimension, plus and minus, things like that. So that's where I started. When I got better at skulls, I started getting better at other things, and I started getting better at zombies. So I get better at portraits. You learn a lot by it, and I just started to understand shading. And so when you do fire, fire's got its own issues, and fire by itself is really tricky. But it's actually, if you can paint a skull, sometimes it's easier to paint real fire around a skull or a rose or other object because the focal becomes the item with the fire around it. The fire is not the focal. Fire by itself is actually harder to get right in a composition because the whole thing is the focus. So if you do an image in the fire and you get the image pretty right, the fire can be okay and still as a whole look really good. So that's why I like these projects. They are fun to do. Yeah. So who we got here? Okay, Arizona, Doug Lamb, Spirit, Skulls and Flames. I'm here for it. Got a high octane apple juice, popcorn. There we go. No, you know what? I'm not going to do look up. I posted earlier that what I'm going to do. The reason I'm not going to do look up is because the original video I posted today, that I posted about today, I did 15 years ago. 15 years ago. I think it was 15 years ago. It's 15 years ago I did that video. And that was look up. So I'm going to be doing the Old Yeller on this one. Let me switch over here to that and show you what we got. There we go. So I'm going to be doing Old Yeller, which is this one here. The premise doesn't change, though, so the process doesn't change. Composition is something, you always got to consider, whether it's fire or things like that. But the nice thing is when you're doing a skull, that becomes your focus. And composition is about, if you look at dynamic proportions, how your eye goes around a panel, and where it focuses. So this would be the focus, and the fire is going to go off and move. So your eye is going to go boom and follow the fire. Instead of it's just fire, you have to get the fire here right so your eye can follow through. But, you know, so when you do an image like a skull or a rope, it's a lot easier to focus your eye. So, that being said, another good video to watch of mine is the Pack of Skulls. Is not the Pack of Skulls, sorry. Is the, my brain just went off. Is the Fire Do's and Don'ts. A video I did last year which covers a lot of the structure and basic fire and how I do it and how it's been taught and how it's been shown. So, I forgot my train of thought. Sorry about that. I was reading comments as I was talking. But yeah, so we'll talk about the fire. Yeah, so Fire Do's and Don'ts. That video really talks about the structure of how to go from light to dark, loose to tight. I mean, dark to light, loose to tight, things like that. It goes over that structure, which I'll talk about tonight. But it also shows a lot of what not to do and things like that, because I did a panel what not to do and what to do. So that's a great video to watch. I'll see if I can, if someone can pop on and maybe find that, if you got multiple screens, and maybe put the link up, that'd be great. I'll put it in the description afterwards. But so yeah, let's talk about really quick placement. Okay, so you can start. There's a few ways to do this. We are going to start with an opaque red. Now, some people start with white and do red candy and white, then orange candy, white, then yellow candy, and that's one way to do it. Some people water-based like that better. I like starting with a deep dark red first, and there's two ways you can do it. And I'm going to bring the colors up here. This is everything I'm using tonight. I figured this would be fun to do. Shows the template I'm using. It shows the fire templates that I'm using. I'm using the big shield, and I'll probably bring in some pocket graphics for a couple little details and things like that. And here's the color sets I'm using. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I love the Pack of Skulls. I originally developed them over 15 years ago. It's probably getting close to 18, 19 years now. Yeah, let me put this away. I can talk to you guys. I originally did them with DeVilbiss back in the day. That's who it was originally done with. And that's when there was 6-pack of skulls. They came in a 6-pack, and there was a small size and a large size of them. So you had a slightly bigger one than the current version and a slightly smaller one. I'm just adjusting this camera. And then fast forward years later, DeVilbiss didn't want to further anything. They didn't want to do more stencils. They didn't want to do pocket graphics, things like that. They were kind of getting out of that game. So I partnered up with Iwata Artool, and we kind of redesigned them, refined them, and just came up and simplified it in one size skull. And the multiple size it was doing okay, but it was just confusing. So we just went to one size, and then they've been with them ever since. So yeah, so let's see what else we got. I've done it a few different ways. So yeah, so Spirit. Sometimes I do it with white and candies, white candy red, white candy orange. A lot of times I do that with a colored fire, like blues and green fire, pink fire. I do the white color, white color, white color. Traditional fire, I like using opaque red and then candy red to tweak it. Opaque red again, maybe with orange, or opaque orange with red candy, then opaque orange with orange candy, opaque orange with yellow candy. But I like doing that mix, and that's the more intense fire that gets a lot more depth. It's a lot more money because it's a lot more layers. When I do white candy red, white candy orange, white candy yellow, that's quick. That's a quick job. It's quick fire. It works okay. It looks cool. That's kind of the mid-level budget fire for me. But when I want to get a really depth glow of fire, really build body, have your eye go in and out of it, I like going, basically opaque red, candy red. Then I'll go, this is how Lavallee would basically do it. Then opaque orange, candy red again. Then opaque orange, orange candy. This is the multi-layer. So this is where your budget comes in. After that, then it's opaque yellow, orange candy. Opaque yellow, yellow candy, opaque cream white, with yellow candy, and then like just a little bit of pure white and maybe a little bit of yellow candy, and then purple pearl on the outside. That's the Tru-Fire steps. So there is budgets to how you can do fire. So I'm going to do with the red. Now, what you could do first is, we know where the skull is going to be, so I can register them, or I can just paint a blob of red. Like, I can just paint a blob of red here and know where it's going to go, okay? But to make it easier for you guys to follow along, what I'm going to do is, if I'm going to really make sure the skull's part of it, I'm going to plan the skull. I want the skull to be tilted kind of up like, do I want him tilting down like that? Kind of straight, or maybe a little pitched up? How do we want that? You know, I want to get away from painting on canvas. Does anyone recommend? So these polymetal panels is what you want. They're aluminum panels. They come, you can get them black, you can get them white, or you can get straight aluminum, and you just scuff and shoot. Or you can scuff and base coat and do whatever color. That's what you want to use. That's the best thing. It's cheap. You go to a local sign supplier. If you can, you'll get a 4x8 sheet of this stuff for about $100, and you can have them cut down this size. This is a 10x18 panel, but a 12x18 panel, you'll get like 21 of them for $100. So you're talking $5 a panel, and they're going to be awesome to work with. So this is what I recommend. And actually, these polymetal panels are now cheaper than straight like 040 aluminum. Okay, or you can get illustration board, a little heavier. You can also get like masonite and paint that. There's other things. I just like this because it's the closest you're going to be to painting on a car, and metal or a gas tank is going to react the same. That's why I like to use it. All right, so I'm going to kind of do them. I'm going to have it just, yeah, I'm going to have it tilted down just a hair like that. So what I'm going to do is, because you have, the nice thing about these skulls, you have a positive and a negative, okay? You have the negative skull and you have the positive skull. And then around the edges, you have, you know, a positive of the eye to go in the negative. This is the lower part of the eye. It's all marked out. Then you have right here is inside the cheekbone. You have those elements, okay? And then obviously you have the whole skull. So easiest thing to do, if you don't want to separate these, and you can separate them, is I'm going to put them like that, and you can just run a piece of tape. You don't have to tape the whole panel. I'll do the Steve Driscoll trick, and you just fold up a flap. It's like a wing of a plane. Go here and fold it. And that's going to basically deflect your overspray up. Okay? And don't forget to cover these little guys right here. Okay, so you basically, it's almost like making a deflector shield swimming pool, the technical term. The problem with the panels at like Ace Hardware is they're usually straight aluminum, unless you can find pre-painted ones, but they're usually straight aluminum, or hopefully not galvanized because those suck to work on. And then you have to sand them, prime them, sand the primer, base coat them, scuff it. So there's more work involved. It's way more expensive than just buying these pre-made panels. You know, I like what Doug just said. Skull face down, fire on the rise. I kind of like, that kind of tells a little bit more of a story. You get the story to it. So I'm going to tilt that to be a little bit down. And maybe we'll go a little bit lower than the center. Okay, this is going to be here for 2 seconds. You are not going to spend a lot of time with this, okay? This is literally just, usually I don't even do this. We don't have sign shops. Yeah, there's a sign, you can order from Fellers. There's a metal supplier somewhere within your area. There's a metal supplier in every state, every county, somewhere. It might be an hour or two away, but you have a metal, you don't have to go to a sign supplier. Any metal supply shop will have them. Or you can just order them online. You can get pre-cut polymetal panels, like 18x24s. You can get them from Coast Airbrush. You can get them from probably Spray Gunner. You can order them from Amazon, things like that. Mike Manning, thank you, sir. Much appreciated. So yeah, you know, there's plenty of places to get them. So you don't have to rely on a retail store like an Ace Hardware or Home Depot or something like that. Just do a little research. Look for metal suppliers. I'm sure if you got a welder in your area that does metal welding, body shop supplier, they know where the metal supplier is, and 9% of the time they carry sheets of polymetal or sheets of aluminum, or they can at least get them for you better than retail. And I find if you buy them in 4x8 sheets and then you pay for the cuts, it's a lot cheaper in the long run than ordering pre-cut panels from anywhere online. Okay? All right, so make your little pool. This is going to keep your overspray. You don't have to blast this, because remember, this is just registration. This is just so we know where the skull's going to be. I'm just misting it in. I'm keeping the spray. Notice I'm putting it heavy inside. I'm not putting it a ton on the edge, okay? Because what that's going to do, you're going to pool up, and it's going to be really thick and heavy, and you don't need it, okay? All this is for registration. Okay, that's all I'm using it for. So now I'm going to pull this. I'm going to pull this off. Oops. Pull that this way with flames so you don't bend them. Okay. Easy peasy. That's all I want to do. That's where the skull is going to go. I do HVAC with the problem with galvanized, it's a pain in the ass to paint. Okay? So it does work, but it's a pain in the ass to get paint to stick to. Again, you're going to have to probably etch prime it with like an acid etch that's going to bite to the galvanized. I don't really know the rules of getting paint to stick to galvanized, because I don't recommend doing it. But there's probably ways to do it. But again, you're going to spend a lot more time in base coating and prepping and priming and blah, 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 blah to get to this state. Okay? So it's almost like a penny wise, pound foolish. Yeah, you're saving money because you can get cheap metal, but you're spending all this material and extra time just to get to this stage, which you could get for, in the long run, probably $2 more per panel. So if it takes you an hour to do base coating, priming, sanding, scuffing, blah, 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 what's your hour worth? So you really got to think of that. Spirit Air Custom, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So, this is all I was doing the fire for. And this is kind of how I did the original. If you look at the original over here, that was a red fender, and if you watch the old video, I did the red kind of first. This is the stage where this is, again, so it sinks in, loose to tight, dark to light. We're in the darker stages of color right now. So none of this really matters too much. It's really just a matter of registration, where everything's going to kind of flow. So what I'm going to do is just kind of fog around my skull. I know where he is. I don't even care if I lose it. I know the skull's going to fit in there somewhere. I think galvanize a paint with latex because it sticks. Yeah, again, there's sticking, and it will stick to a point, but when you stick and start masking and doing all automotive stuff and fire, then you can't use latex. So, but yeah, you can get stuff to stick to it, but it's how it's going to behave in the long run and react. And it's just, again, it's more work than you need to. So, the skull is going to be on fire, so you can determine how much it's going to be beyond the fire, how far that red is going to glow. Because remember, wherever the red is wherever your orange is going to be. Your orange is going to go inside it. Remember, everything steps in. You go red, orange, orangey, yellow, 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 and you keep stepping inside. Okay? So your red has to be the furthest out, and the skull is twisting down, so let's have it go like up here like this, and then maybe dance down like this, like that nice S curve, and have it come back up, and maybe it double backs a little bit and goes back up like this. You know, I know that's hard to see, but if you watch Mike when he was doing it, this is kind of his MO, what he was doing a lot. And you kind of just build and find it your structure. It has to come up here because it has to go around the skull. And maybe it flares up here a little bit bigger. This is just a sketch stage, okay? So that's the bulk of the fire. There might be like a little trail here, and there might be some little guys here. Okay? But again, you're just being loose here, And no stencils right now, just a little bit. Maybe it comes back, maybe it has a little spark right there. And it just gets a big old glow. And you're just really figuring out the structure. Mapping is the key, because this is kind of your foundation. You can always add more in the beginning stages, but here I heard a good saying. It's like, you're not going to see this in the end, but you'd miss it if it wasn't there. Okay, that's what I want you to think about this. How you say orange? So, if you don't do this, even though you're never going to see any of this, it's really going to be hidden and gone. This is the key, what kind of, builds the structure. But see how loose this is? This is going to be the glow, because remember, the orange is going to be in here. So, the only thing that might go outside here is the purple, okay? Which you can even add some, and I've done this before too. I've added the purple at this stage, so it's like underneath everything. You don't need to. I mixed up a purple pearl. I think this is it. Let me go back to that color list. Let me talk about that color list again. So I'm doing two mixtures, because you can do this two ways. You can do it with candies, or you can do it with transparents. Okay, whichever you have is fine. They both work. Candies are a little bit more of a pop, but it can be more difficult to work with, and there's some bleeding that can happen if you don't let things slow down a little bit. What the opaque colors, I should have put the opaques up top. The opaques are the must. You got to start with the opaque color. So you need the yellow, the orange, the white, the red, and then in this case you can either do opaque pearl, or you can do the violet above it, or in this case the purple pearl, which is a W311. Okay. And then you can go over them with the transparents or the candies, or tonight I think I'll use a little bit of both. Yeah. So, yep. Timothy John, what's happening, man? Dave Fury, thank you for copping in. What else we got here? Mr. Leahy. Cool. Chris Garcia, I didn't see you guys pop in. Thanks for popping in, guys. Gonna bunch you in tonight. If I miss you, I'm sorry. Alright, so I'm gonna do this purple pearl. This has been sitting for a couple hours, so it's gonna probably flow down. You can usually, like I said, usually this is done at the end. But you can put some in now if you want. So I'm just gonna do it so you can see basically the structure. Because remember, you're building a structure to all this. So, everyone good with that? You can take a screenshot of all the materials, so we can get rid of that now. Alright, so now I can take this purple pearl, and this is the loosest. This is just going to be like, you really can't even see what I'm doing here. You want to almost thin this down a lot, and keep this just to the outer edge. Doesn't even really look like anything. Let's see if any of the cameras can pick it up. Yeah, you can kind of see that purplish glow. That's it, man. That's all that's for. And if you don't want it, if the pearl's bugging you and you don't like sparkles, then you can use it like the illustration purple, opaque purple, something like that. Like I'm going to show you here. Oops. You can just use a straight purple and maybe get a really kind of just glow out here. You can even sketch in the purple like this originally before you do the red. See what I mean? And you can just kind of play around with that. Oh, cool, man. Yeah, that's why I developed them. Just they're always on the bench. Always on the bench. Alright, let's get back to the red. Okay, so the red, like I said, the red is the most important key. You don't need all that other stuff. This is just to kind of keep things... If you want, you could take a stencil here and like, oh, maybe I'll sharpen something out. Again, you're probably not going to see it. You can kind of practice this and like maybe do a test. Like see, I kind of like that hook. And, you know, you do this long enough, you start recognizing patterns that you like in certain templates and certain stencils. Like, I love this little guy right here. So let's do this. You know what I mean? But I really don't recommend using a lot of stencils at this stage. But if you're just trying to practice with some red only, just to get a feel, because if you can make a red only look cool, then the rest of it, chances are, is going to be cool. And a lot of this stuff can be added in at the end, but I'm just trying to get you, play with this one color and just see if you can get some stuff you like. And stay loose, man. Look how loose. My wrist is loose. I'm just kind of gliding through. Controlled chaos. That's really what you're looking for. You know, I think maybe it needs a little more body up here so it like turns. So look, we're going to come down like this. Maybe get a little redder up there. But I kind of like that. It's a cool flow. And notice I'm pretty much, I've gotten rid of that skull. But I know where he is. Okay. I know where he is. I know where the structure is. Now, I could use candy red here, but it's not really needed. I like the candy red when it's about a pop. So a lot of times what I do is I go, and even this is what I do with candies or illustration, I do the red level, and then I go straight to the opaque orange first. I found too many templates, makes it look, yeah, it makes it look like a jigsaw puzzle, it makes it look like spaghetti, it's overworking it, it's over stenciled. You know, like see right here, stencil, it's too much of this given area. So realistically, I would probably lose a lot of that one here. Or maybe just loosen it up with a flood stroke. Now, see, it doesn't look as stencily now because I don't have as many sharp edges. You can even just freehand the edge away like that. And now it kind of looks a little cooler. Okay. Hey, Ms. Mendez, what's happening? I could probably use... And remember, I don't want to put any orange directly on top. I mean, I could right now because I'm going to be doing a transparent red, but I think it needs a little bit more glow in here. Maybe a little bit there. Okay, nothing crazy. It's really loose, okay? But I got a design flow going. So before I wash this with like a transparent red or candy red, let's tighten up the structure just a little bit with a darker orange. I know on camera that looks kind of yellow. But this is orange and that's yellow, which looks really cream. Just it's the lighting. You know, it's definitely something in post-production I could probably address. But you can see on that camera it looks more orange. It's just the angle of the light coming through. And that's the yellow. Right, so let me switch just to camera 1. Well, 3/4 cam. And that gives you a better idea. So you can kind of see that flow. Let me see if I can brighten. Yeah. Okay. Alright, so next we're going with the orange. And this is the opaque orange, which is right here. So that is the W082 opaque pyrrole orange, okay? And I just shook, So we're gonna have to figure out how to fix that. And that's just gonna be a spark. Easy peasy. Not even gonna see it. See that? No worries. Don't freak out. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is now I'm into the orange section. I can come in here and be like, okay, I remember I want this skull here, so I'm gonna make sure I get his nose defined, or the front of his head. Okay, I'm gonna make sure I get that. So I'm still gonna be keeping it loose here. Oops. I think this gun's a little jammed up. Probably should have cleaned these last week. I use 5K light to help. Yeah, no, so I have true color lighting, but the problem is you also have studio lighting and multiple camera angles. So I'm seeing the color right. It's what you guys are seeing between two different camera angles and the background lighting and everything else. So, and actually, I don't like 5K. 5K I find is too blue. I like a 36K to 4K that has a high CRI index, the color reflectivity index, which is the closer to 100 you get. Usually you get around in the 80s, you're good. Low 90s, you're really good. And usually 5K is too white, is too blue. In my opinion, but it's about the CRI. That's what you really want, is the CRI. Yeah, the K, you know, you can get like correct CRI at like 36K, 4K, 5K. It just depends on the site. All right, so orange. I'm getting that glow. And I'm not putting, I don't want to use a lot of the stencil back here on him. But I'm going to freehand off of it. And I know I'm going to have that structure of him right there. See, I'm just kind of registering. 103. All right, so again, now I'm just staying kind of in that area. I'm staying in the center. I might punch this out a little bit. See, with the stencil, I'm going to sharpen that. I'm going to come out here. I think I reduced this orange a little too much when I did it. Again, this is all going to be glow. This is all going to get red, transparent red or candy red over it anyway. So, again, it's not going to be too structured. Maybe a little, whoops, that's a big old flood stroke there. Again, most of this is going red. I don't think it did. Bring a tack rag up here. I have tack rags. I don't think I have a tack rag handy. Huh. Alright, we're going to have to use paper towel. And then that was down. No, there's no bids yet on this. That's fine. Okay, so see how we got that structure? It's a little tighter. Now this is where a lot of guys make some mistakes. This is why I was looking for a tack rag. You can't really see it here. Let me see if you can see on top down. Now it's hard to see, but you can hear it. It's a little chalky. Mike Stanton with a bid. Thanks, Mike. Mike Stanton. 200. Thank you, sir. So, This is what happens if you, especially when you're using candies. If you overlay this, you're gonna start getting that rough, chalky look to your paint. And when you go to clear it, it's gonna be tougher to clear, and it's gonna have a little peel to it. So yeah, let me just peek and see if I got a tack rag. I don't have an actual tack rag. At this point, I would be using a tack rag. But if you don't have a tack rag, make sure it's dry really good. And you want to get that graininess off. Now watch what's going to happen. See all that? That's all the stuff. That's dry paint. Now it's going to be a little smoother. You can blow it off, and even you could use a little wax and grease remover. So for water-based, I like using House of Color. When I'm using water-based paint, I like using House of Color solvent wax and grease remover because it doesn't reactivate the paint, and it does clean. I have it right here, the little pump sprayer. So I'll show you. See, then you can go, and it takes everything off. But if you're not dry, you can get a little also rough, but it will go give it a good one. I don't recommend using straight paper towels. They can leave a lot of debris behind, but now it's a lot smoother, it's less grainy, okay? Let's go back to here. But so this is like the base structure of the fire. This is where your skull is going to be. So if you guys, I'm going to do this. If you use isopropyl alcohol in any way, shape, or form, it's like putting lacquer thinner on urethane. It just wipes it right off. Absolutely gone. No isopropyl at all. I did that with, yeah, like I was just getting a little bit of those, and yeah, if you use, especially on solvent, if you're using a really crappy paper towel, you'll leave so much debris in here. When you go to clear coat, ugh, it'll look like hair. Okay, so you could do like red right now. This is transparent red, so I could do a transparent red, or I can do with candy red. With water-based, you have to wait a little bit longer, or you got to put 40-50. If you're going to go right to an opaque, you want opaque. I can do it now, I don't really need it. I'm going to wait this to my next step, because I don't really need to get that candy red in there just yet. Because I'm still building the structure, so I can do this with a transparent red and kind of get that tone. But this is also where you can register where your skull is going to be with some detail. So now what I'm going to do is watch. I'm going to put him right where I know he's going to be. And I'm just going to hit where the eye is. Very light. And that structure, look how light I am. Super, super light. Okay, not a lot. Just see how light that is? That's all I'm putting. You don't want to put a lot there, guys. Most people make the mistake of over stenciling. See how little that is? That's just for me to see, okay? If it was candy, it'd be a little darker, but it's just for me to see where it is. And then I'm going to go out here, and this is the same rule for candy. You want to put your transparent your candy in the darker areas first, and get them in your outer glow. See how I'm setting that glow up out here? So this is going to add to your glow. And it's going to set these off, but you're going to maintain a little bit of that orange. That orange structure. See that? Really little. And remember, all that work you did before is getting covered, but it's still under there. And like I said, that saying I heard earlier today is, you're not going to know it's there, but you miss it if it wouldn't. Yeah, I was watching an Adam Savage video. They were talking about like some of the model making stuff and some of the little stuff you never see, but if it wasn't there, you'd miss it. Okay, so you see how that starts to kind of brighten everything. It makes that, it makes the orange a little bit redder, and that's going to start setting up for the yellow. But, so that's transparent. Let me show you what candy does, okay? I didn't... So let me show you, this is red candy. I'll show you the difference. It's a lot stronger. See how it's a different pop? It kind of glows a little more because it's letting light travel through and reverberate back. But I'm still doing the same thing. See, I'm still putting it out here in the red, in the darker areas, and just letting it kind of kiss over the rest. And this, if I'm going to get a little bleed here, it's not going to affect me. And you'll notice if I do this, watch. It's a little bit more dramatic. Okay? It just shows up a little more. But again, I'm not trying to get a lot. I'm really not trying to get a lot here, because I can do all these washes later. I'm still being conscious of my film thickness, how much paint I'm laying down. But again, my structure's still looking cool. And this glow out here, this red candy on the black is really not going to do anything. But if there is some overspray mist of orange, it's going to turn it red. If there's a little purple out there, it's going to get a little redder and give a little fiery glow when you clear it. And that's all this candy is going to do out here. Okay, so you notice we're a little tighter now, okay? Up here, I think that can go a little redder, but we'll see. We can go back to the regular red. Just building that structure, okay? It's a really cool flow. I know what I got going on here. I'm setting myself up for the next colors. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Makes sense? And again, that's a cool stage I'm happy with. This next, and this is where most people are doing okay at this point who are starting out. And you're getting a little confident, and you're probably getting a little cocky and a little too confident. This is where you're going to be careful. Okay, this next stage. Two things can happen to the stage. I've been doing this for 20-something years, and it still hits a stage I hate, and if you fight it, you can make it worse. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. So when you start going with the yellow, if I'm using House of Color, I'm using chrome yellow at this point. I know it's fire and it makes its own light, but are you considering a light source? No, I'm not considering a light source at all. For that same reason, it is its own light, so it is the light source. I will consider it when I get more into the skull, on how it wraps around and where it's bright from, and you have to determine, is the skull on fire and glowing hot and also light, or we could do it the other way, where if I put the skull stencil down like this first and kept it black, and the fire was all around it, like I've done in other videos, then the fire would be lighting the cold black skull So then the light source coming from the fire would be picking up the edges of the skull and lighting it. This one, the skull is also hot on fire itself and coming out of it. So the skull itself is the actual hot spot. So that's the kind of thing you can determine from there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is the opaque bismuth yellow. So I'm going to see how opaque, if I didn't over-reduce it too much. And you could use an orangey yellow at this point too, but Brian, that's a great question, because it is something to think of. Now, if you have other things going on, like when I made the post earlier today, people were giving me suggestions like, oh, put a sword and do this and do that. And that can all be done. But now if you start adding a sword or other object that's not fire, then you have to consider that the fire is lighting that object. What are the flame stencils on top? The ones on top are the ones up here and here. Those are the Tru-Fire templates from Mike Lavallee. You can still get them in places, but I don't know if Artool's making new ones since Mike passed, so I'm not sure what's happening with that. But this one I'm using here. This is half of the upper, this one here. That's 2 pieces. Yeah, it pops out. That's what I'm using here. And then this one, this is the big, that's just the big shield. And this one is also part of, this is part of the other one over there, I think. It's been taken out. So, yeah, they're just pieces. What do you think about the new reducer? I really do not see. The 4021 is the best thing they've ever made in reducers. I notice a ton of difference from the 4011. I was never a huge fan of the 4011 by itself. It worked. So the 4011 worked great. It was okay, but I always kicked it up with like 4 parts 4011 and then 1 part 4020 to make it a little hotter, because I like a more hotter reducer that kind of melts in and dries a little quicker, because it acts more like a urethane. So what I found is this 4021 acts more like my mixture. The 4020 can be so hot sometimes you would get tip dry because it's drying too fast. So 4021 is kind of the best balance of a reducer and a flow enhancer. Where so many paint systems you need to reduce with water and this and that, and then you got to use a flow improver. And back in the day, people used Fantastic and all this other crap to get it to work. The 4020 is just a one solution. You don't need a bunch of other additives with it. So I do like it a lot. The skull is the ember. Yeah, the skull could be the ember, or it could be the source of what the fire's coming off of. It just depends on what you wanted. Like, is it still bone or is it made of fire? You know, there's all sorts of things to do it. Yeah. All right, so let's get this yellow in and see if it's not opaque enough for you. Like, I'm going to use a slightly bigger. I'm just going to test it here. Yeah, that works. So this is where I start carving the fire a lot more. Fire, 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 fire. Yeah, Amazon has them, but the problem is you don't know who you're getting them from Amazon half the time. Spray Gunner has them, Coast has them. Dave Fury, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah. So there's still places you can get them. You can still get it from Coast. You can still. I know Spray Gunner's got them. I know Amazon again. Just check your pricing. Amazon is not as cheap as this anymore, as people remember, because they kind of bet the fact you're not gonna look anymore. Okay, so let's talk about our skull is gonna be the light. Okay, so I'm gonna make him the brightest. So I'm gonna put a little bit out here, okay, and around the head, like cheek and chin, and just kind of light the skull itself, okay? And then I'm going to let the fire kind of come off, and he's going to be the real source. Okay, I want that to be the brightest. And this is where you can look here. There's the eye. There's the top of the eye, like here. So I can punch out that top of the eyelid, like that. And then I can rotate it around, like this. And then come to the bottom. And see, I can create that eye there. And then actually, I gotta find it. Where is it? This is where it's nice if you still have two colors in here. I know where that is gonna be. And then you can get the cheekbone in here like that if you want. I'll punch that in later so you can see it a little easier. Let's do a little bit of the bottom of the skull. Okay, so see, it's just enough where it's here. Wicked Pissa Kid. Yeah, so this is where sometimes people get scared. You start putting a lot, or you start putting too much, and you start doing crazy stencil shit. Yeah. And you can't overdo it here, but you can really pull it back. So, but if you stay within your structure, you can usually be pretty good. This, you know, I mixed this paint up really early in the day, and I think it started to gel a little bit. So let me see. See, there's a little too much going on there. Back it off. Come up here. A little bit of wet paint. No big deal. Remember, I'm still kind of keeping things loose here, because this is going to get orange over it. Yeah, it's alright. We got an alright accent. It's fun. And we can overdo it when we want to. Or the more we drink. Whenever I try fire, too much. Yeah, symmetry can be a problem. Yeah, the compressor I use here in the studio is just an older, I mean, it's like a 12-year-old SmartJet Pro. You know, I'm going to switch up. More reducer. Where'd my reducer go? Ah, 4021. Yeah, you can get a pattern going, you can get symmetry, and you got to try to avoid it. That's why you got to keep stepping back. And you don't want to repeat the same lines. You want to stay within it, and I'm following that, sometimes a little too much, so I can follow it this way, but I can also come across and I can kind of sharpen it up one way and the other way, like that. Remember, this is still kind of a loose stage. And we need some little fire out here. This is where pocket graphics can come in good. Let's see here, where's my little pocket pyro? Pocket pyros are great because you can come in here, we can get a couple little things. Some little kind of sparky glows. But notice I'm still within my fire. I'm going to switch angles here so you can see kind of the different looks and angles. Remember, this stage is going orange, okay? This is not the yellow stage of the fire. This is the yellow setup for the orange. Orange. And you can do a little spitting here too if you like. Some people like the kind of look of these little spits. They kind of look like little embers. I'm just pulling the trigger back and like plopping them in. But remember, so the yellow is going to go inside here. This is going to get more red. And this is going to get more orange. So this is kind of your setup for everything. And I kind of like how skinny the fire gets here. A little too much almost down here. See, there's a little too much going on down here. A little less up here. But again, I'm just keeping it loose and building structure. Now this stage, a customer walks in, they're like, ugh. I actually had a customer want to throw me out at this stage. Because he just wasn't getting... He just wasn't getting how it was going to come together, so... I had to tell him to get out of his own shop, because I was in his booth doing his car. Okay, good, good, good. All right. Save that. Alright, so this is where I'm going to show you, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the orange transparent. I'm going to repeat that same process. But see where I'm spraying? It's on the outers and I'm letting just the overspray get in there. See, everyone else? This is why I use a cap, because I spill paint, because I move too quick. Now I come out here and make that transition to orange. Use this to, now I can define where that all is going to live. Now candy orange, you'd get a faster pop, it'd look a little different. And I'll show you that too. Because I'm going to go with the red out here. Because see how there's still orange out here? And that's why it looks white. But once I get rid of it, But now my fire is really too orange. So this is where the red's good. I'm going to bring in the red candy. And maybe some orange candy on the outer. Or you could skip this orange shade and just do it with the candy. It's really your call. But so watch what this red candy does out here. It really goes deep red quick. And you start getting to that glow we're getting out here. That's a different glow than red base. It still looks cool with the red base, transparent. But candy gives a little bit different effect. I have noticed that fire out of Skullz nose doesn't look that cool. I usually go out of the eyes and the mouth. I usually don't go out of the nose. So we're going to have to take some orange candy here. And you'll see what this does. It goes really orange really quick. Almost too quick. And you're just layering. I can deal with all this later too, so I can keep darkening it. I'm really kind of focusing on my structure right now. It's a little too blobby here. We'll hear respirator. Let's get it a little bit more red. So I'm going to bring the red in here to get this structured out a little bit more, because the red's going to come in darker. Okay, so top of the eye, underneath the teeth, because I'm going to add some black into that red. So I can afford to go a little strong there and really kind of dial him in. Kind of blend that out. Soften things up. It's insane that Mike would do this process over. Oh man, it's so great doing this on a big vehicle. Because the biggest trick to a bigger vehicle, and that's where the patterning really comes in, like, you gotta really keep it loose and different throughout the whole vehicle, or it starts looking really repetitive. That's the kind of biggest trick. And you gotta keep your shapes bolder and bigger. Yeah. And if you're finding you want to deepen the red, make sure you can add a little bit of purple, whoa, to this red. Might have been too much. And I can make this red a little darker. And I can hit out here, see what this darker reddish purple. You see, I can carve without adding black. So I added a little bit of purple to my red. And that's going to be great for doing some work with the skull. So I'm almost making like a maroon red right now, and that's what I'm going to use. Maybe a little bit more reducer to start cutting some detail in this skull. So if you look here, see how it's like very purple? But when I come in here, it's going to be a little bit more red. Alright. Let's do the wide camera shot here. That's a studio shot. Hi guys. It's the GoPro shot. You can see the whole studio at this point and everything I'm looking at. So yeah, I'm getting a really nice dark red, maroonish with almost a purple. So this is where I'll start using just a little bit more in there so I can see it. I'll do quite a bit under here. Let me see if I can get in on a tighter shot. Trying to focus up my other camera. Just see what happens if I do this. Nah, that's not working. Sorry, I just messed that camera up. There we go. All right. Let's go back. Let's go back to top down. Okay, here we go. Alright, so now I'm going to build a little bit of the structure. I'm going to use the skull stencil a little more. I'm going to hit behind the teeth here so I can really kind of define that skull. And I'm going to darken around the edge so I can brighten them back up later. You see that? It kind of separates them from the background. But because I didn't use a skull back here, I don't have any of that information there that I don't really want anyway. So that's going to let the fire just come off the skull more. And this is where the freehanding comes in a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to shade the skull. This is where the skull knowledge comes in and how to shade. But again, I'm keeping my details soft here. And I'm smoothing out the eyes. Because I'm going to brighten this back up with white. These teeth you got to keep very simple. Where these V's come down, you're going to go right between them and just do soft dagger strokes up. And it's going to start helping form the teeth. And if you want to do rounded daggers, if you're freehanding, it's good enough. You can go in and do it. And then I'm going to hit down here. Just really... Rob, what's going on? The GTO is done. Do the night. Okay, cool. Same thing down here. A little down dagger strokes help show where the teeth are going to be. Kind of defines the sockets. And that jaw comes back like this. If you want, you can kind of map it out where that's going to be. I'm not doing too much here because I want the jaw to kind of go off. See, I'm just sculpting it. I'm not overdoing it because I'm going to let my next orange, my next yellow layer really become the pop. If you tried doing double offset using internal-external stencil, aka comic style, outlining with the dark purple or the dark candy. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing here, actually, because I'm using this dark purple. And I'm going on the in, and then I'm going to use the positives here, and I'm going to use my yellow and pop the brights. I'm going to use the edge here and pop the brights again. You know, but I try to keep it somewhat soft. I don't want to have a too hard of a comic book edge. If I do that, I'm probably going to do more freehand line, and I'll probably add more. Yeah, I'll probably add more purple to it. Michael Cohen, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. But yeah, now if I added more purple to this, or if I went with the red candy, or the purple candy, I could start making it even darker. Or I could add a drop of black into it. Literally, I just put 2 drops of black. Let's see what that does. But I try not to get it too dark too fast. Yeah, see, that's a little darker. And just kind of get it to that happy spot wherever you want it. Like if you go back to the original one I did, and I'm kind of modeling this one off that one, it's a very similar process. That older one, that was on House of Color, I think, or SEM at the time. I forget what I was using. I think it might have been SEM, actually. Yeah, so I'm going to get there, and it's that push-pull to where you want the red ember to glow to black, and, you know, a lot of it's one of those, too. It's like, how long am I going to spend? So something I haven't done a little bit and I got to do right now. What should I be doing right about now? What should I be doing right about this time? I need... What kind of air extraction you have there? I looked online, but... So in here, I'm not using any extraction in the second. Right in here in the studio, because I'm doing such a low volume paint, I'm just using one of those small booths. Thank you. Yes, tack rag. Those small like hobby booths. I just got the double wide one, and that moves enough of this spray what I'm doing here. In the shop, I have bigger extraction fans and things like that. I do also have like an in-room air scrubber, like one of those Wen air filters for overspray and dust, and those actually do a good job too. I just don't have it on now because you won't hear. So staying within is right. Having a drink is also good, but yes, Michael McClung is right. Wiping it down with a tack rag. Double checking your texture, because you start putting a lot of red candy down, you're going to start getting chalky. And I probably waited a little too long because I'm talking and doing it at the same time. But you're still going to get a lot of that off. But yeah, like, actually, I could probably, let me see if I can do this. So if you look here, right in here, I can't really, it doesn't really show. There's a booth. It's just got stuff sitting inside it right now. Okay. This is kind of the scarier stage, because I'm going to go almost pure white. I'll put a little yellow in it to make it kind of a creamy color. And this is where I'm going to start carving most of the detail in the final fire, and then we're just going to refine it. Because you can see what you're looking at there with that fire on the reference picture. And if you look at the background image, see how the red in the fire, not the one with the skull, like just the background of that image, see how that red is just a glow, and that orange is just a glow with a little bit of structure, and the only structure is really that yellow. Okay, that's the only place that's really structured. And if you look at the fire on that skull, the only place that's really structured is the yellow. Everything else is a lot looser. That's what you're going for. Okay? Cheers. Let's see if we can get you a little tighter. There we go. Okay. This is where, you know what, it's a little too pure white. I'm going to get a little yellow here. So I don't want to overdo. Just trying to get my yellow mixed up. Probably hope that helps. I can message you on the one I got. It moves enough air. It moves enough paint, especially for doing models and small art projects in here. And the other thing to look to is look at a hydroponic setup, like the ventilation systems they use for hydroponic, like grow rooms. They're super quiet, they're affordable, and you can build a nice extraction unit. Go from there. So you're looking for a good reduction here, where you're not getting blowouts, but you're not getting a lot of like rough edge chalkiness. That's kind of what you're looking for at this stage. Yeah, so if I could show you on this piece, you're looking for a nice opaque, go top down, you're looking for a nice opaque that doesn't blow out too easy, and you can drop the pressure down. But this is the kind of stage that kind of gets a little squirrely. Okay, so if you look at the skulls, and let me bring out one of the packs here. When you look at the pack of skulls here, There's all 6 of them, and the backside lists what the backside lists what the major areas are. So you have your positive and negative, and then old school flame, and then here it shows you if there's an eye socket top, eye socket bottom is right here, and that's the jawbone, and then you have bullet holes. Okay, so the other ones have nose, the tops, but the nose I don't need an external one because I have the edge. So this is where I can take my stencil itself, okay, right here. And I'm going to edge light the nose to kind of come off that nose. And the top of the head, just a little bit here like that. And a little bit here like that, okay? Now that looks like shit. That's a scary stage. It was like, oh my god, I messed it up. And if you left it like that, yeah, you did. The key is to come in here like this. We're going to hit the jawbone a little bit. And now I'm going to think about what a skull looks like when I'm doing that white stage on black, okay? So I'm going to hit the bottom of the eye socket right there. And now I'm going to freehand. I'm going to put a core highlight right down the center. And the eyebrow. I'm going to come up. And I'm going to start building that structure. I'm basically repainting the skull here, guys. But now I'm going to be a little bit more cautious with the teeth. I can come in here like this, and I can hit the edge of these teeth, like right here and right here. For the teeth, I'm just going to do a little soft dagger stroke right in the middle of each tooth. And then a little tight one going up, and kind of get out the cheekbone like that. You can take a pocket graphics like this and see I can run the cheekbone like right there and just pop it out. I can come down here, I can run the jawbone just a little bit. And I'm just basically picking up the edges of everything and kind of redrawing that skull in light, like the brightest highlights. So I'm going to pop this up, and that's why it's kind of scary right now. It's going to pop up super bright. I'm going to knock it back down with the orange, with the yellow. So it can be afford to be a little bright here. But remember, everything we've done is inside what we've already worked on. I'm not stepping out of it at all. You know what I mean? That's the jaw. I can even put a little eye in here like this and let it kind of start to glow. Alright, now this is where some of the fire comes in. This is where we're going to be a little tighter. So now I'm going to take the fire and I'm going to be a little tighter. And this is where some control comes in. And be a little bit more selective and look where you're going. I like this, what I did before. I'm going to stick with that shape. I'm going to kind of come up into the skull and just make a new one. And it's really about practice. It's really about figuring out the lines you like in your stencils. But again, I don't overuse them because I really like that. I'm going to come back in and double back like that. That's freehand. I can kind of loosen that up. Now I'm going to kind of come right in here. A little positive, negative. And just start playing around with my glow and where I want it. And he's the focal now. A little too much going on here. Tighten, loosen back up. Get that a little bigger. I do like what I got here. Let's punch that. See what I mean? Like, now this is getting too much, but you can see if I over stencil, I can kind of blend these back together, but keeping a glow in mind. But this is my hot center right now. And I'm just kind of figuring out, I can always add more, so just do it slow. Have a little bit coming out of the mouth. I'm going to really hit the edge of this freehand, that nose. I'm kind of come up from that septum a little bit. Kind of get rid of that stencil edge look. Really a little bit. Okay. This is where I start liking the candies more than the transparents. Okay, right now I'm going to use some orange. I have orange candy and a little tequila yellow. Okay, I'm going to mix these two together. And this is going to get orange and really bright. But I'm not going to paint directly on the white. I'm going to paint here, 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 here. Let the overspray get inside here. And you'll watch what happens. I'm just taking care of that outer overspray with this orange yellow. Okay. Very little bit. This is still the orange. It's got a little bit of the yellow mixed in. Okay, but see how it's starting to turn? Taking my time. Working my way through it. Remember, I can always add more, but once I go too far, it's too dark. So I'm starting to build that tone. I'm starting to see that structure. Do I like it? Okay, it's cool. This is where it's great if you have multiple airbrushes because you can keep playing back and forth. But if you only have one, like I'm gonna just to make things a little easier for me, I'm gonna keep two going. So this is just a tequila yellow. I like the tequila yellow better than the regular yellow candy. I think it's a little bit more, it gives it that golden glow. So watch what this yellow does. See that? Now you get that really nice pop. And it starts making the orange pop. See what that just did in that under a minute? And if you don't have the candy, that's orange. Get this. When you don't want to use candy, you can just use the transparent yellow here. That'll do a very similar thing. So you'll see it here. It's just not as poppy as the candy. But it works. And then later I can come out with the red and just kind of blast this area. But I'm really digging the way that looks. And again, this is where you attack. Again, I really should have brought a tack rag up here. Still a little wet. Let the air dry. Just making sure I don't have a tack rag or anything here already. One of my dries. Nope. Yeah, it's pretty grainy right there. So I should have wiped it a little sooner. You can't wipe too much, really, in this stage. Those blue shop towels work pretty good too, but that's a lot of overspray. But that's looking cool. I'm digging that. Alright, now we come in for our final little details. Okay, this is where the brightest pop of the eye. See that? A little bit fire, but a little goes a long way here. Okay, little fire, little licks of fire at this point. The structure's really tight. Okay, don't overdo it. Be very picky here. Picky. Yeah, so I'm going in and doing the eye. Exactly. I can pop the nose bridge. I can pop the jaw. Just the final highlights of the teeth. Top of that head. And really you're just kind of playing at this point, and you're being really careful not to overdo it. Maybe make a little lick coming out of here. I'm going to close this up a little bit. And if I overdo here, I can always cut back orange. Maybe the eyes glowing out. Look at that. Sure. Same thing. Now I'm just going to go back to that straight yellow with a white and hit that a little lighter. You can see that's going to pop it back to a yellow. It gets rid of that white. I never want to really see pure white, so orange, Getting a little there. And now for my final details, I'm going to take the candy red or the illustration red, probably a drop of purple, drop of black, and I'm going to carve the final details. And then see what I want to play with from there, if anything. I can see how dark I want this. Leave little bits on the teeth. Now you can spend hours making it like super realistic. I know like Drew Blair's got a great one on a more realistic like lava. You know, this is perfect for motorcycles, cars. You know, 20 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour popping by, it's going to really show. I'm going to keep the contrast high. See, man, just starting to carve that out. This has that. This is candy with the black mixed in, and I'm being pretty strategic here. Because I don't want to overdo it with the dark. I'm going to cut back in with pure red candy in a second. I just want to get a few details carved out. But you see how those little strategic lines really just brought it together. You could go back in for another line, you know, of white pop if you want. But see how that's just, it's fun, it's coming together. I can kind of come in and I can carve some of this fire away. Keeping it, loosen it back up here. And that's going to be doing a lot more with the purple. Is this photorealism? No. Is this going to get people's attention on the side of a motorcycle or car? Yep. It surely will. And that's the market I paint for. You know, the market I'm painting for is custom cars, custom motorcycle, automotive culture. That's the kind of set. If I was going for gallery work, museum work, realism, I would approach this a totally different way. See, now I got red, and I'm going to use pure red in here, kind of tone that. More red here. Just keep having fun with it. Sometimes I clear these and then I do another session if I'm gonna on top. Sometimes I do another session or I'll pull out the positive and I'll just carve a shape from here, carve a shape here. So now what I'll do is, yeah, I want that eye to pop. Plus or minus, mess around, get to your happy spot. See, like that's too far. Tone it back out with the yellow. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom. What's up, Brother John? Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining up. Don't forget, I haven't even mentioned the Down Dirty Tricksters today. This will focus on getting this fire one off the ground. Let's get going here. Thank you to all my Down Dirty Tricksters who keep the memberships going. Don't forget you get 25% off all the downloads in the store, all the digital content. Thank you for all the support. Keep it coming. Keep growing the channel. And we can't forget all the brands we like to use and people we buy from, like Mapo and Coast. And our Iwata Airbrushes, our tapes, our colors. And a refresher for everyone. This is what we've been using. These are all the paint colors. I'm going to use a little bit of that purple pearl now. We're going to keep it really slight. And we're just going to kiss around the outside edge. And we're going to call this baby done. Okay, so out here, just some purple glow. You're not even going to really notice it, but there's a lot of flakiness going on. You can do a little bit of stenciling here. It'll show up when the light hits it. You just won't see it until it's kind of sunny out. But it's another cool thing you can do is you can sense a little bit of fire. And when the light hits it, people kind of go nuts over it. And give it a nice big glow here around the edge. So I don't reduce the candy paint typically when I mix it like this because I'm mixing it 1-to-1. You can add like another 5 or 10% reducer, but remember the candy concentrate reduces to 40-50 because it's a thinner viscosity material. So you don't need to add too much actually reducer to it. Alright, so high bidder, I believe, unless I missed it, is still Mike Stanton. And if Mike is on, does Mike have a preference in pinstripe color that's going to go around the edge? Mike, if you're still there. Yeah, so Gary, it's pretty much the same colors. And the ones I list here would be equivalent to what Mike did. So if I bring up the paint list here. So let's go to the opaques. If you're using House of Color, you would use like either Euro Red or Graphic Red base. They're opaques. You would use Molly Orange instead of the Pyro Orange, and you would use Chrome Yellow instead of the Bismuth Yellow. That would be the House of Color colors. Okay? And then for the candies, Candy Apple, so in Candy 2.0, it's Blood Red. In House of Color, it's Apple Red. Grabber Orange would be Candy Tangerine in House of Color. And then Tequila Yellow would be in House of Color Candy 2.0, Tequila Yellow in House of Color would be Pagan Gold. Okay, and that's what you would use for the House of Color colors. And for the purple, you would use, I think it was PBC, Pro Base Coat Purple 26, or Passion Purple for your purple glow. And then you would use regular white. So, Okay, so Gary is at 250. Okay, so I need a pinstripe color. So right now Gary's a high bid, but I'll give Mike one stance to the next, and we'll see. Unless you both want the same color, it's not going to matter. I always like doing purple out here. So Mike is at 275. 275. Why don't you both say your pinstriping color first, and then you can bid. And then you can bid while I'm painting. Let's see. So Gary's at 3. Alright, I'm going to start setting up the color. I go out here. Do a nice, like, green pinstripe could be cool too, actually. So Gary says purple. War begins. Mike, are you out? Or are you still thinking? I appreciate you both. All right. Gary says purple. He is the high bid. Purple it is. Yeah, I was between purple and like a bright green. Either one would work. Gary for the win. Either would work. We'll do the. I think Mike would do purple. So in honor of the king, and I already have purple. Mike, I appreciate it. Really do. Hey, you never know. Sometimes you'd be the high one at 200. Sometimes it goes to 4. All right. I don't want to keep any. I don't have any overspray. Alright, so now I can add white to the purple. I gave up on that a long time ago. Gary does get outbid. He lost. He didn't get the tiki. So we'll do this purple. Then maybe I'll put a little purple pearl over it, Gary, so it's like a metallic pinstripe. How about that? How about them apples? Have a little bit of the purple pearl in it. We'll get a little sparkly. Little sparkly. Da-da-da. That will be cool. You were just lucky last week. Someday I'm going to have to go down and hang out with Carrie and actually see all my work that I forgot I did. Alright. There we go. It's subtle, but it's going to be nice when the clear's on. Like a deep lilac purple. Look at that. The purple does make that pop. I dig it. Dig it, dig it, dig it. And that, my friends, is how you do realistic Tru-Fire colors and a skull using my pack of skulls. Old Yeller. Here we go from this to this. 2 hours. Looks cool. It's a beautiful pop. And I think that's it, kids. I'll clear this. See if it needs any little additions, and we'll go from there. Whoops, wrong button. Wrong button. Alright, guys, I appreciate y'all sticking with me for this 2-hour feed. Under 2 hours, you did pretty damn good. It was a great night. I'll edit this stuff down and record the whole thing. We'll get a nice, quick how-to out of it. What do we just get here? Hope everyone has a great weekend. The start of May. Summer's here. Pool's open. Got to get some yard work done this weekend. Have a couple drinks, relax, enjoy. And, yeah, hopefully you guys all liked it. It's a great lesson. Just remember that loose to tight, dark to light. Start with your darker red tones, your rich reds, to keep it loose. Get to your orangey tones, get them a little tighter, but not too tight. Get to your more orangey yellow, tighten it a little bit more. And then get to your bright yellows, and that's going to be your tightest. Remember, if you stick with that and you keep all your colors inside, the other ones, like red nests the orange, orange nests the yellow, yellow nests the bright yellowish white. If you stick to that, you don't overdo it, your projects will come out great. Less is more. So remember, that looser area is broader and more of it. And as you get to the brighter colors, you want to be very strategic and a little bit here and there. And you'll get fire. You know, just honestly, practice in just one color for a while. Like, do it loose red and loose orange, okay, tighter orange. Just kind of get that feel, and then start adding colors. Which is why I usually do the colored fire, like blue fire, green fire, or pink fire a lot. It's less steps, because you can get away with dark blue, light blue, white, done. Same thing with green. You can get around dark green, bright green, yellow, done. 3 steps. Real fire is the most complicated because it has the most layers and the most transitions, so it's more chance to F it up. So, and overdo it. So just keep practicing, keep messing around with it, keep it simple, relax, have fun with it. It's supposed to be fun. And have a great week, everyone. See you next time on Airbrush Down Dirty Tricks. See ya.